Hello again YouTube. So on this video we're going to make this indicator stalk fit. Now this isn't an Escort MK1, this comes from a Land Rover Series 3, as a few suggested in the previous video that I should try. So I did, I ordered one, got one, and happy days. And you'll see it all works. And the indicator mechanism, and it all works a treat. But it wasn't a bolt-on thing, that's for definite. So quite a lot involved with this, a bit of 3D printing, a few made some mistakes along the way to see what would work, but we got there in the end. And a big thanks to Russell Law again, because there's a little widget in behind there which causes this the cancelling, which I didn't have one, so he sent me his so I could make a copy of it. So that was a big help. Thanks again, Russell, you're a star. Okay, the Lotus indicator stalk has arrived today. Can we use it is a $1 million question. In short, not as it is, because the radius there is a fair bit bigger than the radius there. And I'm trying to film this one-handed. There's a pickup point there for a screw, which this doesn't have. So we may be able to drill something out there to sort that out, and I'm thinking we can either 3D print a gap filler, because the whole thing needs to come this way slightly as well to be able to make up with our fixing hole there. So maybe a 3D print or something made out of metal. Okay, so we have a 28.8, so we'll call it 29 because it's easier, size shaft around there. And the other measurement we need to be aware of here is the difference is between our holes there. So if we measure edge to edge to give us our centres, that's 49.67 or 50, and those ones are 47.48. So what I think we probably will get away with doing is elongating these holes down just enough so we can screw this together. Because as you can see, if I put that one, hopefully this will show this, but if that one's screwed lined up there, that one's way off. So I think we can just get away with elongating both holes very, very slightly. And to do that, I have finally splashed out on a proper Dremel, because my cheap joking Dremels kept vibrating on the ends, and in fact I've had to get myself a new speed click holder, because the other one, because the cheap vibrating ones has chewed away by there, which is making it vibrate even worse. So you can see the difference between the new one and the old one. So watch this space. We'll use the Dremel to open these out. And the other thing I've noticed is I've been fiddling underneath this here. This is like a spring clip holding a spring in place, which is what's giving us our clicks. But I think we can just about drill a hole in the middle of that for a screw to be able to, a self-tapping screw to go into, which will go in the centre of that spring and will keep out the way, and that will secure it enough to stop the movement around like that. So I think we can do something with it. Right, so I've stopped the print at this stage on purpose, just to try the first bit out, see how we're getting on. Okay, so we need to go back to the drawing board. It's slightly too big to fit in there. This is why I always like to print off a little piece first and check it, so we don't go wasting loads of filament to find out it's then wrong. So happy days, that's the right profile you want. Let's go print out the full one. While we're waiting for that piece to print off, we've got to make those holes suit those holes. So we'll get our new Dremel out on the job for that. If I can find my packet of Dremel bits, which I've got just for this job. Yeah, here we go. A little packet of super bits. Something like that, I'm thinking. The defenders and eyes on. Right, let's try that for size before we get too carried away. Touch more. Yeah, that should do us. Marvellous. Right, let's see if it will screw in tidy. Perfect. That gives us some adjustment on that. That screws me a bit squiff actually. Right, happy days. So happy with that. So the other thing we want to do is make a screw hole on the other side for fixing. Put those safe so don't lose them. Right, so the other thing we need to modify is you want a screw hole in the centre of that. If I pop that off, something like that, I'm going to see what goes on in here. There's a spring in there. That spring lives in there, pushes down on something to give this something to click backwards and forwards on. So we don't want to lose that. But I think, as long as we keep things central, we can put a screw hole in the centre of that, and the screw will go down the centre of that spring, as long as you don't use a stupidly long one. And I think that'll work a treat. Right, let's put that out the way safe. Probably do with a more delicate vice than this one, but there we go. Pretending to be all engineering now, look. Right, there's Lewis. Right, let's hopefully get that back in onto there. Lovely, haven't lost the springiness of that. Now if you want to screw down the middle of it, let's see what happens. I need to get a shorter screw. Yeah, I have to get a shorter screw for that. Sure we'll have a little one here somewhere. I wonder if this will do us. A thread on it. Yeah, I think we got a winner. Lovely, that'll do us nicely. Okay, we'll leave that in there for now. Let's go see how the 3D printing's coming along. And it is done. Let's see if it fits. I'm going to do this one-handed. Oh, lovely. Super. That's worked a treat. Fits in there. Fantastic. And if you have a quick look up to the screen, you've got a Lucas part there, which is pretty much identical to this. And it's 400 quid. So we saved ourselves a few pennies there. Right, we're measuring's gone Pete Tong here somewhere because we've got a big gap there. And gaps there and there to sort out. But in essence, we're sort of getting in the right ballpark. That's hitting up there, so we need to straighten this out slightly just to bring that down a tad. So think of a nice gentle way we can straighten that out. So need to go back to the drawing board on this bit here. Right, I think I've worked out where my mistake has been made. So I've presumed that this would be where these tabs come up would be central of the shaft, and they're not, they're over center. So this bit needs to be smaller. So the hole in there, which is about the right diameter, just needs to be shuffled over, if that makes sense. So that would be an unusual shape, two arcs but in slightly different places. So that arc there being central to there is correct, but the arc that starts there needs to be off center. So I think I can do something about that. The other thing I want to look at is the cam debris for shutting off these. So as we go up like that, you've got a cam that will come up through there. As it comes back round again, it will click that off like so. So I've seen pictures online of what they should look like, and Russell Lord has very kindly offered to send me one. So it means I can take measurements off that and print up my own one. Happy days. Okay, so for straightening it up, I made a mistake first of all by trying to put it in the vise, even with a couple of bits of angle to try and, because they don't want a serrated edge of the vise on it. That still marked it, but then I've come up with this idea of adjustable wrench, opened up just enough for it to hold in there, and then just give it a gentle pull on this, which is straighten this up a little bit. So I think that's enough, not an awful lot. So I scratched the paint off of there a little bit. I think that's mostly out of sight, we can always touch that up. But try that out on the car now and see if it needs a little bit more. Right, and the answer to that question is yes, it does need a bit more. So in the wrench I got, let's tighten the vise up a bit more. Let's try that. Right, I think we're somewhere now, so we can up, go right, left, full beam, and nothing's catching on anything there now. It's got plenty of space on there. And I even canted it slightly forwards to come through the steering wheel a bit better. So I think that's that organised. Just need to reprint one of those at the right shape, and then actually we'll have a look at the wiring. Right, that looks a bit more promising. Version 3 is a better fit. So let's get see if we can get this on one-handed. Get my screw into there. Happy days, here we go. Yeah, so screwed on that side, screwed in there. Lovely. And that's missing all that malarkey over there as well. Brilliant. Okay, happy with that. Straighten that out, got that pointing in sensible direction, and the steering wheel will be about there, so it's perfect for grabbing just about. So there we go. So if anybody wants one of these, let me know. I'll print them off and send them out to you. Next thing we need to worry about is, of course, this is wrong. On the end here, we need to identify what cable's doing what. I thought I'd found a proper diagram for these cables, but it didn't actually make any sense to what cables are on here, so it's easy enough to sort out, get a multimeter on it and figure out what does what. Right, I've been fiddling and I think I've got this worked out. Now, as we look at it, it's pretty obvious which is indicators. So this is indicator feed in, and this is indicators out, left, right, or right, left, which way round. You know, that'd be left indicator, right indicator. So that's pretty straightforward. The brown wires, I can get this in camera shot. So you've got the brown wires going here and coming out here. This appears to be horn. So if we see the multimeter zeros out because it's made a connection. So that's horn. Not sure which is in and which is out. I'd imagine that the flat brown is in and brown with black stripe is out. But it is just a make and break, so I don't suppose that much matters. The purple wire appears to be a power supply for flash. And so purple and blue and white. If we pull a flash, right way around, we can do it single-handed. There we go. Oh no, that's dip beam. Otherwise flash. Go on. Can I do it? One-handed. This is a fiddle. Oh, there we go. There's flash. So that's dip beam, and that's flash. So when it's at rest, it's at dip beam. So the purple wire appears to be a feed for the flash, and the blue wire appears to be the feed for dip and main. So if we give that some power, so the blue and red stripe I think will be dip beam, and then we go over to blue and white stripe, that is main beam. So I know what wires do what. The next question is, what wires do they correspond to in our plug here? Because we have an extra wire, oddly enough, and this one's already a bit of bodgery gone on there in the past. So the next challenge is the cancellation widget gadget that goes on there. So I'm still waiting. Russell ordered very kindly sent me one that he has, which I can use to measure up and make a 3D model to print off my own one. So waiting for that to arrive. When it does, we'll crack on with that idea. Righto, we've printed off our anti-indicatoring device, or cancelling widget gadget thingy. That fits over there and sort of spins around on there, and that little pib nib there would fit in. Hopefully you can see that there's a little bit in there where that slots into, so that's nice. So thank you, Russell, for sending me yours so I could make a replica of it. That's simplified the device of that altogether. So let's build this up and see if it works. Okie dokie, well, in principle it works. We've still got a bit of developing to go. So turn that way, up it goes, and returns round and knocks it back again, as it should do. But we need to make a little bit more clearance in there, and that needs to reach in a little bit further, or the body of this needs to be a bit taller, because with the steering wheel on, it doesn't quite reach once it's up against the back of the steering wheel where it belongs. It isn't, trying to do this, film it and do it at the same time, isn't reaching into there where it needs to go. So it's getting there, it's not a million miles off. On the subject of wiring, I've dug out my old Escort loom, and apart from being a left-hand drive loom, which means that nothing reaches across here for this lot anyway, it's in an appalling state. So I may well just make a loom up from scratch, and that's not as difficult as it sounds. I did it for the pop, so I think I'll do it for this. At least you know where you are with something from scratch. Turns out it was an even simpler fix than I anticipated. I simply had this fixed too far down that way, so everything was too far away from the steering wheel. Even with the steering rack fully homed in on the linkage, which I had sorted out further down the line, down that way, it's still, I had this too far down, only a little bit, but now it's working. Lovely. Happy days indeed. So that's our indicator stalk sorted, and as you can see, it's nice, easy to get to from the steering wheel, so that's all tidy. Possibly could do with being canted a little bit further forward, but see how we get on with it when I come to using the car. So all I need now is a spring that goes between there and the cancelling widget to keep this pressed against the steering wheel. And I might have a bit of stainless MIG wire, which I could probably use to make a spring out of. Let's see what we got. Perfect. This will do us. Had this from a scrap dealer years ago, taking copper in for scrap, and he had this there, and he said I could have it. And it's been used for all sorts over the years. So, right, okay, let's have a go at making a spring. This will be a bit of trial and error. So I've got a socket that fits around there. I'll try it around there first, but I suspect I'm going to have to go for something narrower. But let's start off at this and see where we get. Let's have a look. So the deck should be a good idea first. Let's hoik some off and let's have a go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Okay, but that, oops, that answers the question I wondered. That's made that too big. So she's not entirely surprised at, but we can now we've got a starting point. We've got an idea where we're going. So let's hike that off of there and try something smaller. And judging by that, that's grown almost twice in size. So let's go for something a fair bit smaller. What we got here. That looks promising. Let's go with that. Too small now. But we're getting the idea. It's not too difficult to build to make a spring. It doesn't have to be anything super powerful. Just got to keep a little bit of tension on that. That's all. So where are we at? So we want something in between there and there. So let's see what we got. That looks promising. Get a bit more wire. That's looking promising. That works. I've messed about with it a little bit, so just sort of tucked it over itself to stop it trying to get lost down the little hole there and getting wound up on the end of this. But this appears to work, so on there like so. That's plenty of bounce on that. As I say, it doesn't need to be a lot, just enough to hold it in up against the steering wheel. And then we put the steering wheel on, that presses it down and it sort of holds it in place where it needs to be, and happy days. So put all that back together now and see it working one final time. Lovely, that's all back on, nice snug fit around the end piece there. So indicators left, indicate right, and happy days. We're all cancelling nicely. So that's all come together okay. Another step forward. Brilliant, that's another job ticked off the list. So quite happy with how that's turned out, and as it happens, it now means I've got 3D files for these if anybody else wants to do the same thing using one of these stalks. So drop me a bell, drop me a line on the chat, or contact me on Instagram, on a private message on Instagram. I'm sure we can work something out with that. £25 and a bit of time spent with the 3D printer and a bit of help from Russell, and job done. So thanks again for watching. As I mentioned earlier about the wiring, I'm just not going to worry about that now. I've worked out what cables do what. So that was straightforward enough. I think the wiring that came with the car is in such poor condition. I think if I put that in the car, I think it'll catch fire in short order. So I'll probably get some colour-coded wires, they're all Lucas colours, and make my own lube. But that's a long way down the road. I'm not worried about that. For the short term, I just want to get the car built up with all the big bits in it, and once that's done, I can then start thinking about getting the car body prepped and painted. So thanks for watching. Thank you for the subscribers, and please do subscribe if you're not already, and please share and like and all that. Keeps the algorithm happy and keeps the channel ticking along nicely.